Urban Crag Climbing Center is a rock gym located in Dayton, Ohio, with 8,000 feet of textured and sculpted vertical terrain ranging from 28 to 56 feet. For more info, go to urbancrag.com or call 937-224-CRAG. Welcome back. Thank you very much for all your views, all of your emails, your responses, people coming out on the streets saying, we love your show, we love the 937, keep bringing it. So we're bringing it. What are we talking about this week? I've got some things to talk about. You've got some things to talk about. Who wants to go first? Do you want to flip a coin, or do you want to flip the Brondo?
No.
It's a thirst mutilator down on East 3rd.
Yeah.
My old neighbor Ron was burned out. 20 people burned out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many businesses, several businesses.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 in there, I think.
At least.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who really had bad luck in that deal.
It's a pile of rubble.
Yeah. There's some controversy now about whether the fire department had enough stuff to get there on time, where they could have gotten
really
there quicker.
Is it really a controversy, or is it actual
yeah, it is.
facts?
Well, the fire department says we got there 4 minutes after the call, which is fairly quick, 4 minutes.
But how many firemen were actually there? Because I heard that they needed to call in support from the Main and Monument.
I do not know
station.
the answer to that question. But yeah, that's a question. There is a controversy. Basically, the union president is saying, this is the result of when we're cutting back on fire stations.
Right, you cut the money, you cut the jobs. You have fire stations where there's not people all hours of the day. Remember when we were little, firemen were always at the fire station.
That brings up an interesting question, because something I saw in the Dayton city meeting agenda, it didn't get mentioned in any of the other news, was they're signing a contract with a company to provide cleaning of the fire stations.
Oh, yeah.
Annual cleaning of 12 fire stations as needed through 12/31/12 to Kingdom Bright Incorporated for $25,532, and for the period of 1/1/13 through 6/30/15, locked in a nice little contract there, $85,500.68. Now, $2,000 per fire station doesn't seem like an outrageous amount for commercial cleaners, but the question that I think really begs when I saw that was, why aren't the firemen cleaning the fire station? I thought that's what they did when they weren't putting fires,
the place. They live there, they have beds, they
sleep there.
they
like play cards and stuff, and while one of the other fire guys cooks burgers, or and they clean the trucks, and just kind of like soldiers would do. Like when they're not doing anything, what are they doing? Cleaning crap, taking stuff apart and cleaning it. So I'm kind of curious.
What this is that, nationally there's an attack on firemen, policemen, teachers, all these people who we need in our communities. And this is what we get. We get fire stations that aren't housed 24 hours a day. And it's like putting a Band-Aid. We see this over and over again with government, and they cut things so far, but then they have to do things that cost them money to make up for the cuts that they did in the first place, And so it's like, well, you're putting this money out. If you had just had, it just seems redundant. They're trying to fix something that they fucked up, and they're not fixing it in the right way.
Yeah,
that's how it looks to me.
It just seems to me that there ought to be enough. If you have a fire station, when the firemen aren't working,
when they're not putting out fires,
they should be cleaning the station.
Yeah,
it should be maintained all the time.
Right.
So, and how much of this is the result of desires within our kind of corporate governance mechanism to promote privatism, because obviously fire stations need to be cleaned.
And they need to have firemen in them.
Yes, I always thought, like, that's what went on when fire. I'm sure they have fire training, and some days they go out
and they clean the trucks and whatnot. Yeah,
but you got to keep the whole place clean. The operation like spick and spanny.
Right.
So, that was kind of, that whole fire was kind of a look into some of what's dysfunctional in our country and in our governance. So that was an unmentioned fire story within this whole, fire thing was, wow, they're paying Kingdom Bright Incorporated, which is like a disadvantaged small business from what I understand. It's all, fine and good.
Right.
There doesn't seem to be a problem with them, but it's just like firemen should be cleaning the fire station.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dough. That's $25,000 plus $85,000 off of Brant Pike, just outside, like in Old North Dayton, kind of on the cusp of Old North Dayton, right before you get into Uber.
There's a Valley Crest landfill there. Okay. It is listed on the EPA's Superfund site, or Superfund list, which means that it has hazardous materials on the site that need to be cleaned up, that potentially may be causing environmental health damage. This site has been on the EPA list for a long time. But the reason that I bring this up is because there's a comment period that's beginning actually tomorrow, August 9th, for 30 days, going till September 10th. And so if there's anybody that lives over in that area and wants to hear about what they are planning on doing, there's a proposed cap that they want to put on. I guess there's some gas leaking. So people can look that up. It's at the EPA website if you look up Valley Crest landfill. But at any rate, the public hearing is going to be Thursday, August 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Kiser School on Leo Street. And there you can also submit public comments online. So you can check that out. If you live near that area, if you're concerned about hazardous waste substances that are around you in your community, check that out. If there's some way that you are affected by this, I suggest that you put in your comments so that the EPA can maybe, obviously answer people's questions and perhaps suggest some alternatives.
And you can check out the link to the Valley Crest site in the meeting below this video. Just click on it. It'll take you there and tell you all the information that we just went over.
Yes. So a little bit of environmental info there for anybody who lives around that area.
Mm-hmm. How is Dayton Public Schools spending your money? Some people would say not good. They're going to be cutting back bus service. A few years back, Dayton Public cut out high school students. Now I believe they're going to limit to a mile and a half. Anything you have to be within or past a mile and a half to get bus service. Mm-hmm. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of unhappy people about that. They're also they've hired several drivers.
So that's good after they went on a mass firing last year.
Yeah, and they're hiring more people and cutting back on service simultaneously. I don't know. Well, all you can do is see.
It might work out because, as we've talked about before, the system's convoluted. They have drivers with their routes are too long.
Yes.
They're going all over the place. Mile and a half is not that far. Most of the places that I've lived through my K through 12 education, I had to walk to school or take public transportation. Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get a lot of people say, "Hey, my kid has to walk past 6 child molesters on the sexual predator list down here on." We live at 5th and Jersey, and there's 6 perverts on the way to the bus stop or to the way to school.
I'm not saying that parents aren't going to complain.
Oh yeah,
I'm not saying that, but I can see the school's justification.
Yeah, once again, back into this rock and a hard space where We've got money for so many things in this country, except for some of the basic things like schools.
Right, you take the money out and you leave these people
fire
scrambling
departments.
to try to figure out how to make it meet. They fire people, then they hire people, then they fire people and hire people because the costs are too blah, blah, blah. It's just a giant clusterfuck. They don't know what they're doing. It's an experiment, which I guess at least they're experimenting.
This is all just a continuing experiment as we chortle through space on this giant ball of rock with fire in the middle.
And a little bit of water, yeah. So,
I've done everything you asked me to do. I can't do it anymore. Can you purify me? Will you get out of my head and into my stomach? Purify me. Purify me!
but, of course, it'd be nice if we could have more federal funding for education.
Yes, and you know what? Everyone complains about funding schools, but if you look at the military budget and the enormous amount of money that it takes to fund making, death rays and
speaking of death rays,
spies from the skies and stuff like that, and that money, when you don't have money for fire departments, you don't have money for some of the basic infrastructure of the schools, like keeping a transportation system going, functional. It all goes back. It's related to this massive military machine that we have, which is like 87 million times bigger than any military in the world.
It's eating us.
It's not quite that big, but if you go to nationalprioritiesproject.org, you can see. I'll put that link down there too. You can see exactly oh my goodness. Yeah. That's what education gets. This is what guns get.
Right. And, And Dayton we're known as the robot killer. What is it? Killer robot.
Oh, the Flying Death Robot Capital of America.
So we are the Flying Death Robot Capital of America.
Yeah, I think that's pronounced by the Onion.
Okay. Awesome for us. Dayton is hosting the Ohio Defense Connects. So Dayton Defense, an organization of defense contractors, are coming to Dayton. They're having a little conference or whatever, talking about how they can connect the Defense Department with more action here in Dayton to get us more on that map, so we can kill more people.
Yep. That's what the machine's for.
So the city's excited about that. I think that's going to be in September.
Which brings a question that I posed today on my Facebook page, and I figured I'd ask it today. Since I did, we interviewed A.J. Wagner a few weeks back, and he's been a known peacenik. He had a he had a thing in his front yard where he put like candles or boots or something like that for each of the dead Iraqi soldiers. But when I asked him, would you, court defense contractors if it really helped? Of course. He was like, be right on it.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, how can you hold those juxtaposing views? I mean, at one point, you need to get people jobs, but at the same point, I pose this question: if a manufacturer came into Dayton and he's like, "Hey, Mayor and everybody, I got a machine. It sucks our enemies up from their positions and throws them in a big blender, grinds them up, and spits out biofuel and soap and other useful things like that. Yeah. It's going to be 10,000 jobs for Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to put them in that old GM factory, and we're going to be making these giant enemy biofuel blenders, and the enemy will go in the blender and spit right out some stuff you can sell right at the 99-cent tree." Would Dayton City Commission give that man a 10-year tax abatement? 10,000 jobs!
My first question was, only 10 years? No. When you put it out blatantly like that, and you put it into normal people's faces, they would say no. But When you look at other things that we do and that we support, it's basically the same thing.
Because if you like an A-10 Warthog, if you're getting shot by one of those giant like death helicopters, I would say that would be kind of like going through like a flesh grinder, with all the bullets going through your because when you get hit by those things, like the bullets go through your brains and they splatter the brains.
Yeah.
A lot of times they knock all the teeth out and they shoot the eyeballs out the heads. And all the blood is all over the streets, and that's what those machines do. And so I question, would we as a community support a giant human-sucking grinder machine that spit out biofuel and soap if it would employ 10,000 people at the General Motors plant?
Oh, it's sad. I think you can
is that a good question?
We live in especially if you make it our terrorist enemies, because there's just so much.
Terrorist? What's a terrorist enemy? There's just so many nuts everywhere anymore.
You know what they tell us.
I'm gonna go white out. I'm gonna shoot someplace crazy.
You know what their definition?
Well, they're just all over the place now. I mean, they got Batman and the Sikhs and all that kind of stuff. It's just
the Sikhs. Poor people.
I'm numb to it. So many people are.
Our society promotes hatred. And it's okay to single out these medium brown-skinned people who look like they're from the Middle East, regardless of where they're from.
Well, I would say I don't think society was doing that. I think some nutbag white supremacist.
Our listen to the politicians and the way they talk.
Oh yeah,
these freaks.
Yeah, they do.
They promote hatred and violence,
especially in really ignorant people.
Okay, and that's why we get that freak who's going and shooting up a fucking Sikh temple. Okay, because he watches the news that promotes all this crazy shit. It promotes hatred and division.
Yeah, enemies, us and them.
Those people are the terrorist enemies, and this is what they look like. And so we get freaks on the fucking total fringe. Going and doing crazy shit.
Yeah, because they have complete access to crazy shit making capabilities.
So
it's just completely nutty.
When you have identified a group of people as the enemy or the other, and you have a media system that promotes that message, then you have people that support a ridiculous
feeds on
military thing.
Yeah.
And so you might get to that point where people will be like, yes, we will allow the people blenders if you only put those kind of people in there. As long as those are the enemies and those people, those terrorists. People will probably go for it, I think. It's pretty, it's sad. I don't have, obviously I'm cynical about our country. And so, yes, I think that there are morons out there who believe the hate mongering and all of this other war craziness.
Yeah, you're all just...
It's jobs. Everything, jobs.
Mostly hairless ape relatives chortling through space on this little ride, trying to control it, but never quite able to.
Well, I've had philosophical conversations with people saying that we are not the smartest animals, and we are not the greatest animals in the animal kingdom. In fact, I would hold that we're quite the opposite for the amount of destruction that we do on purpose. Nobody else does that.
Yeah, none of the other animals are.
So I say we're pretty shitty, and I don't think we're that special. We're not that smart, obviously, because look at the shit we do.
Well, we do some pretty smart stuff, but we do some really, really dumb stuff too. Yeah. Yeah, it's a boulevard of errors, our history.
It really is, and one that we don't learn very well from.
Oh no.
That's the sad part.
Yeah, so keep being divided.
Yay!
And losing. Yeah, unite and win.
Yeah.
See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.
Peace and love.
Alligator.
Peace and love.
Yeah, exactly. Peace and love going into the 2012-2013 school year. Super peace, super love. Keep it together. Be kind to your fellow man.
Yeah.
And if you can't, just shut up.
And stay home.
All right, you take care. 100 shirts for only $395. 20 shirts for only $100. Greenleaf Printing and Designs has stupendous signage, printed and embroidered apparel, and promotional products for you. They're at 5526 Burkhart Road in Dayton and on the web at greenleafprinting.com.